The UN has condemned a military coup in Mali and called for the immediate release of several of the African nation's top-ranking officials. On Tuesday, the opposition's military arrested ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Mr. Keïta announced his resignation in an effort to avoid bloodshed on his country's soil. The soldiers claim to belong to the National Committee for the Salvation of the People and say they acted in order to prevent Mali from falling into further chaos. But global leaders fear this latest government overthrow could open a power vacuum in the country, which has been plagued by violence for years. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab joins us now from London. Welcome, Imtiaz. So the UN and the African Union have called for the release of all government officials and for the restoration of constitutional order. Do we know more about what actions are being taken right now and what happens if these officials are not released?
Yeah, good to talk to you. Well, it really does seem as if it was a perfect storm of unrest that kind of led us to this point. We have to go back to only yesterday when Mali's president resigned after being held at gunpoint by members of the Malian military. Now, President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta has been struggling for many months now, it has to be said, to address the growing anger in the streets about allegations of his own government's corruption and incompetence, and for really failing to deal with the deadly violence connected to Islamist extremists and ethnic separatists, mainly in the north. In fact, since June, Keïta has faced widespread street protests against his rules, and that's apparently what led to these military leaders that are behind this coup to rise up against him. Now, the man who's effectively now in charge is a colonel by the name of Assimi Goïta. He's one of 5 military officers who announced the president's forced resignation on state television last night, where he declared himself chairman of the junta now in power, while also promising fresh elections. Whatever the case, though, many regional analysts are warning that this vast West African nation, which is among one of the poorest in the world and certainly of the continent, could face far greater destabilization if a political settlement isn't found soon.
Were there any official charges brought against the president?
Yeah, and of course his supporters are saying that, these are cooked up. But we have to remember, as we've been saying, that this has certainly been a coup that's been condemned almost universally, globally. As we've been saying, the United Nations is condemning the move. We've also heard from the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who's also tweeted his condemnation, calling the coup in Mali a, quote, mutiny. But the most meaningful reaction to this coup, and indeed the arrest of so many people and so many figures within the Malian government, has been from an organization or a bloc of 15 African nations known as the Economic Community of West African States. Now, this is an organization which has considerable influence in the region. It's already closed Mali's borders, suspended financial transactions, and has removed the nation from any kind of meaningful decision-making bodies in the region. The bloc is also currently holding a virtual conference to decide what further action to take against these coup leaders who, as we've been saying, are very clearly very isolated from West Africa and certainly increasingly from the world as well.
All right. Well, Imtiaz Tyab, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.